Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Darkwolf's Den Radio Show. Please rise, or at least put your hand over your heart for the playing of the national anthem. Thank you, and please remain as you are for the Pledge of Allegiance led by John Wayne.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Coming to you from a secret cave, hidden deep within the wilderness. This is the Darkwolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live from a secret cave, hidden deep within the wilderness of Tennessee. That's right. We're ripping through the electromagnetic suit, we're tearing through the atmosphere, and we're tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the Darkwolf's Den Radio Show for Wednesday, December the 15th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of a reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are going to dive deep down the rabbit hole of the state of mystery of Mississippi. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of paranormal to cover and a little time to get there. And this show's going to be a little different than most shows that we do in the State of Mystery series. We're not going to have the cryptids tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but I promise we've got enough paranormal to cover without the cryptids this time. There actually weren't that many. I was really surprised. I really hope Ben Miller finds more than I do. So good luck to you, my friend Ben. You have your work cut out for you in Mississippi, and we're gonna dive deep down that rabbit hole here in just a moment. But first, let's go ahead and check our two YouTube chat rooms on the Rippin' Rabbit Hole YouTube page, as well as the Darkwolf's Den Show YouTube page. How we doing over here tonight? JoJo's checking in. How are you doing, JoJo's? Great to see you, checking in with the hearts. Then we got Terry Taggart checking in down here at the bottom. Errol Taylor with the maintenance monkey over in the Rippin' Rabbit Hole chat. Glad to see you, Errol Taylor. Alva Yoder says, hello, JoJo's. Hello, Errol. Hello, Alva. Glad to have you here. Michael Fontaine checking in. Also in the Rippin' Rabbit Hole chat room. Terry says, hello, hello, Terry. How do you guys like the new screens, right? Terry says she likes it a lot. We had to switch up programs, like I mentioned last week. We had a whole overhaul here and had to recreate everything, and it was getting old, that other screen we were using. So, it's a little overdue to do a new one anyway. So I hope going forward you guys like the new State of Mystery and Freedom Flame screens, as well as our Christmas episodes coming up. Hope our radio waves stay well. We are in a wind warning forecast here in Ripon tonight. That is not good. I hope you guys stay safe over there. If you have issues with the show stopping randomly for whatever reason, because, YouTube's garbage, just refresh the page and it should work just fine. Over in the Darkwolf's Den Show chat room, JoJo's checking in with the hearts. Michael Fontaine checking in says, that's what we used to call our little girl when she had her sippy cup. Miss Sippy, that's cute. Biz Wooford jumping in the Rippin' Rabbit Hole channel. Glad to see you, Biz. Michael Fontaine, like I said, just stopped on him. I hope it comes back. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is great to see everybody here tonight. And, of course, whether you are listening on the YouTube chat rooms over there with us or around the world in Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network or on the RippinRabbitHole.com, we appreciate having every last one of you guys along for the ride. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, before we do dive into the paranormal state of mystery of Mississippi, we have two more fun little segments to do. The first of which we call Today in History. this day in 1944, band leader Major Glenn Miller is lost over the English Channel, never to be heard from again. To this day, nobody knows exactly what happened to Glenn Miller. It is still officially an unexplained disappearance, and that happened on this day in 1944. And that is today's segment of Today in History.
Say what?
Our quote of the day today comes from Benjamin Franklin. He says, and I quote, "A good conscience is a continual Christmas," end quote. And once again, that is Benjamin Franklin, and that is today's segment of
Say what?
And I hope you guys are as prepared for Christmas as I am for the amazing paranormal we're about to cover in this overdue episode. I do apologize that I've had a couple weeks issues here and not been able to do the episodes, but we are back and rolling live and ready to have some fun with you guys. And we are going to start off tonight's State of Mystery of Mississippi. Well, like I said, we aren't going to have cryptids tonight as we normally do, but we've got a very, very strange illness instead. Even more strange than the current crazy going on right now.
Mercritis was an infectious disease that, among other things, transformed women into homicidal maniacs. If you try and research the outbreak that happened in the small town of Mississippi during the 1950s, you won't find much information. But if you ask anyone who knew someone who was affected by it, they will tell you it was very real.
And as we will find out here in a minute, there's a reason why you won't hear about it, generally speaking.
Mercritis is a very frightening disease that supposedly hit the southern United States and was rumored to quickly be covered up by the government.
As we know, government cover-ups are pretty much par for the course around here. And the government, once again, when they step in, as we know, things get really messy after that. And they did their best to cover this up, but unfortunately, they weren't able to cover it up completely. Well, unfortunately for them, fortunately for us.
Because of the cover-up, you will find that most stories about the disease come from friends of friends who had a cousin who knew someone affected by the outbreak. Mercritis is believed to be caused by men who ingest large amounts of lead, which is deadly, from paint or some other source, which causes them to secrete a pheromone that makes women around him completely hormonal and unreasonable.
So apparently some interaction in the body with this lead caused some kind of chemical reaction that affected the women in the area. Because of a pheromone the guy was putting off. However, interesting fact, there's never been regular human pheromones actually detected. Though it is assumed humans have pheromones, there's never really been a case where it's been seen scientifically. However, this was not the first time that a case of mercritis would be reported. As a matter of fact, this is the second incident of such a case.
The first reported incident of mercritis was actually reported in Europe in the 1700s, when a man was chased by dozens of women throughout a seaside village. In attempts to evade the women, he ran into freezing waters. According to villagers' reports, the females did not seem to care for their own lives and chased the man into the water, where everyone died, including the man. In the 1950s, an outbreak in a small Mississippi town, the name which was quickly covered up, happened when several men contracted the illness through ingestion of near-lethal doses of lead. Soon after, a large number of women in town went into a homicidal rage and swept through the town, destroying property in a quest to chase down and murder every man they could.
This almost seems zombie-like behavior, right? No care thought for themselves or their own well-being, just this insatiable urge to kill every man they see. Perhaps that's how the zombie apocalypse will start, right? Maybe they'll take their Mercritus and take it to a whole new level, right? As funny as it is scary.
In the wake of the outbreak, the town was almost completely devastated. No one knew for sure the extent of property damage or how many people died because, according to rumors, the federal government rushed in and hid the evidence, and the medical community quickly covered up any trace of the outbreak.
And as we know from current experience, when government and medical come together, cover-ups abound. Just look at the current society, if you wonder what I mean. The devil is always in the details. And speaking of the devil also happens to be in Mississippi. That's right. Maybe it's warm enough down south down there that he likes it, right? But the next case file, of course, you guys may have heard of the case of Robert Johnston and the devil at the Mississippi crossroads.
Famous blues musician Robert Johnston left a legacy of music that would outlive him and grow over time, influencing many notable musicians even today. Robert had always been interested in music and did have skills with the harmonica, but despite his best efforts, he didn't have a talent for the guitar.
But not having a talent did not stop Robert from continually trying to get better.
Robert still spent a lot of time at juke joints and stores trying to learn. His ambitions came to a screeching halt when he married his first wife, Virginia Travis, when he was only 17 years old. Once Virginia became pregnant, he gave up music to earn money working the fields. When it was close to the time for the baby to be born, Virginia returned to her family. Soon after, Johnston followed her, but made many stops along the way to perform. By the time he arrived, his wife and child had died from complications during birth.
Tragically, Robert lost it all. And, when you lose everything, you become a really dangerous person, a really desperate person. And in his desperation, he returned to the one thing that he knew from childhood: music.
Devastated by his loss, Robert returned to music.
Good to see you. My Life DIY dropping in says, sorry I'm late. Have a note. Glad to have you here.
Performing any chance he could. He was often booed from the stage and finally disappeared for months.
So to say that this guy was bad was clearly an understatement. No matter how much practice he had had, of course he had gotten rusty over the many years that he wasn't playing. So returning to music, he not only was rusty, but he didn't know the instrument that well anyway. Booed off of every stage he played. Then all of a sudden,
when Robert returned and performed again at the last place he was booed off the stage, the audience was amazed at his new and improved guitar playing skills. Nobody could believe he learned that much in such a short amount of time.
And we know it takes a very long time and a lot of practice to become even basically good, let alone, extraordinary, especially to the point that Robert had become in just a couple months. Though he had practiced before in his life, still, you don't become a master musician or master anything in just a couple months.
And rumors started that Robert Johnston and the devil had made a pact so he could obtain guitar playing talent.
As we know, this is not the first artist we've heard selling their soul to the devil for talent.
One version of these rumors was that Johnston met the devil at the crossroads outside of town, where the devil tuned a guitar and gave it to Johnston to play in exchange for his soul. People were stunned by Robert's newfound talent.
And it isn't just rumors the reason people believe that he made a deal with the devil. As we know from our studies in predictive programming and how the elite in dark magic works, it is well known that they have to somehow put it out there and tell you in some form, right? So if he made a deal with the devil, he would have to kind of put it out there in some form according to those rules, right?
And he only fueled the rumors about the devil by writing songs like Me and the Devil. Robert ended up with another girl named Virgie King, but her parents forbade her from seeing him, and soon Robert began drinking, womanizing, strumming, and crooning his way through the Delta.
So he took up what some would describe as the devilish lifestyle.
Finally, Robert got his chance to record his music in 1836. His first single, Terraplane Blues, sold 5,000 copies. Before he could enjoy his success, Robert died mysteriously at the age of 27.
And it's really interesting that it has a connection now to the 27 Club also. For those that don't know what that is, there is a large number of musicians who have died all at the age of 27. Perhaps that is some kind of marker for having made a deal with the devil. I don't know. But an interesting connection there nonetheless.
The same age as many other modern music legends. He died in Greenwood, Mississippi on August 8, 1938, but his death certificate didn't list a cause. Who or what killed Robert Johnston is still a mystery. Many believe it was a jealous husband of a woman he was having an affair with who poisoned his whiskey, and some speculate that it was the woman herself, or perhaps a woman secretly in love with Robert who was jealous. Another theory is that syphilis killed him. Still, there are many who claim the devil came to collect on the deal he had made.
You would think that that would be the end of Robert Johnston's story. However, the strangeness continues.
Regardless of the cause, Robert Johnston was laid to rest. But where is another question. There was never a tombstone erected for Robert, so his true resting place is still a mystery. There are several places that claim to be his final resting place. Mount Zion Ministry Baptist Church near Morgan City, Mississippi, claims Robert Johnston is buried in their cemetery, but they are not sure which unmarked grave is his. They have erected a monument in his honor in 1990. The Payne Chapel near Quado, Mississippi also claims to be the true location of Robert Johnston's remains and have also established a tombstone in his honor. Little Zion Church Cemetery near Greenwood, Mississippi also has a marker stating it is the authentic resting place for the musical genius. So, did Robert Johnston really sell his soul to the devil to become the unrivaled blues musician? How did he really die? And where is he laid to rest? These questions still persist to intrigue people today.
An intriguing story nonetheless. What do you guys think? You think Robert Johnston perhaps met the devil at the crossroads in Mississippi? Go ahead, put a 1 in the chat room if you think that was the case. Put a 2 in the chat room if you think the whole thing's made up and he just, practiced a whole lot. And go ahead and put a 3 in the chat room if you're just not quite sure what to make of that story. And I told you we're going to do a romp through the paranormal, and that we are doing. We now go from devils and musicians into one of the stranger of the paranormal cases in Mississippi. This is a little bit of ghost mixed with just weird, if you ask me. But ladies and gentlemen, the case of Deer Island.
About a quarter mile off the coast of Biloxi sits Deer Island. The tropical 400-acre island is home to many different types of endangered species, as well as the state's 2 most mysterious entities. According to legends, 2 fishermen were planning on staying overnight at the island. While they were sitting around their campsite, they heard something moving in the bushes. Thinking it was just a hog, they tried to ignore it, but the sound got louder. When they went to where the sound was coming from, they came face to face with a headless skeleton.
Which at first doesn't sound all that weird. However,
which chased them off.
that's right. Not only did they find a headless skeleton, it chased them off. That's something doesn't happen every day, right? Well, maybe it does on Deer Island anyway.
Scared, the two fishermen ran to their boat and left everything behind on the island. Many people believe the headless skeleton is a pirate whose head was cut off by his captain when he volunteered treasure they had just buried. Throughout the years, many fishermen have claimed to see the headless ghost and recount similar chains of events.
If there is one thing I am sure at this point my audience is probably getting tired of hearing, it is the fact that when you have independent multiple witnesses reporting the exact same or close to the same events, in a lot of exactitude, I should say, then you have to pay more attention to the case file. You have to start to believe that something is going on here, right? And speaking of what's going on, let's see what's going on over here in our chat room, see what you guys said to the previous question. Remember, 1 in the chat room if you think the story of Robert Johnston is real and he really did make a deal with the devil. 2 in the chat room if you are pretty sure that he just had enough talent where he was able to practice and get that much better. And 3 in the chat room if you're just unsure. Let's see what you guys had to say over here. JoJo's with the 1 says, yes, he definitely made a deal with the devil. My Life 1's across the board agreeing deal with the devil. Michael Fontaine with the 2. Not so much. He probably just practiced a whole lot, right? Then we have Raider Champion over here. Says, I've been to about 30 different states. Yeah, man, Danny Mall, good to see you dropping in with the 1, saying it was a deal with the devil. Man, Danny Mall says he's been to all 50 mini road trips. Well, I'm glad that you have made it to all 50, sir. I personally have not done that yet. Matter of fact, I'm missing an entire seaboard, so maybe one day I will be able to accomplish that too, but at least we can visit them in the Paranormal State of Mystery series, right? Man, Danny Mall once again with the 1. Terry Taggart with the 3 says, not quite sure, maybe he practiced, but could have been a deal with the devil. Not quite enough information in the entire case file, I guess. My Life DIY once again over here in the Rippin' Rabbit Hole with the 1s across the board. And getting back to our case file here, we've already heard of the headless skeleton that chases people off of Deer Island, but that isn't the only strangeness going on in this little place.
Another legend from Deer Island is a firewater ghost. This mysterious light has been moving across the bay between Biloxi and Ocean Springs long before the invention of electricity. According to legends, the light is believed to be some sort of guard patrolling the area with a lantern in his hand. The Isle of Caprice, originally known as Dog Island, sits about 12 miles offshore between East Ship and Horn Island. Its name Caprice is really an appropriate name for the isle. According to Webster's New World Dictionary, a caprice is a sudden, impulsive change in the way one thinks or acts, or whim.
Wow, and here I was thinking a Caprice was just a type of car. Yes, we learn something new every day, right, folks?
This mysterious island seems to appear and disappear on a whim.
That also is not the first time we have heard of a disappearing and reappearing island. If any of you guys have heard of the Isle of High Brazil in Ireland, that's another island that is said to appear and disappear pretty randomly, the way I understand it.
The island was there in 1847, but vanished just a decade later, only to pop back up 50 years later, just in time for the Roaring Twenties.
So this one seems to have a random disappearance, reappearance style also.
In 1926, a resort opened on the Isle of Caprice, offering dancing, surf bathing, boating, fishing, and games, according to advertisements of the time. But the real incentives were unadvertised gambling and drinking. Although booze wasn't sold here, guests were welcome to bring their own or buy it from private boats that just so happened to be near the island. According to records, the Isle of Caprice was a very popular place until the 1930s, when it again disappeared.
Now, what's really interesting is a lot of Mandela effect people believe in the concept that we are literally shifting between multiverses. Wrong, right, or indifferent, when you hear stories like this, it really does make you wonder of the possibility of that there's a shift for a little while where the islands, both High Brazil and this one, are in our reality, and then there's a shift where all of a sudden they're not for a little while until we shift back around to a version of reality where they appear again. Definitely an interesting argument to be made there. Whether you believe the argument or not is up to you, but very intriguing when you couple it with the Mandela effect, right?
According to legends, a storm was on its way from the Gulf, headed straight for the island. Despite the threat of the storm, the party went on, with many people deciding to stay on the island instead of going to the safety of the mainland. 2 days after the storm, rescuers left Biloxi and headed out to the island to rescue anyone who stayed through the storm. When they arrived, all they found were bodies and debris floating in the water. The island had disappeared and there were no survivors. Legends say if you go out to the area where the Isle of Caprice lies beneath the surface, you can hear rowdy laughter abruptly replaced with terrified screams, then total silence.
Once again, taking the Mandela effect point of view, it very well could be a rip in the multiverse that is able to transfer audio energy or different energies across the rip there, across the veil, if you will, for lack of a better term, but very, very strange indeed. It does make you wonder, like, for instance, if somebody is on an island or a group of islands, whatever the case may be, and there is a shift and the islands disappear, what happens to the people on them? Apparently, in this case, they stayed here. But ladies and gentlemen, as you guys know, that music means we have to go ahead and take a network break right here. So my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and you're listening to the Darkwolf's Den Radio Show exclusively on Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. We'll be right back with the second half after these messages. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Oh yeah, that howl means your weekend has officially begun. Hi everyone, it's AJ, the Rippin' Rabbit. Are you enjoying tonight's Darkwolf's Den Show, the state of mystery for Mississippi? I know I am. If you are, and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. The holiday continues tomorrow night, Thursday, December 16th, as Spooky Christmas Stories #2 takes to the airwaves. Jerry Hicks will return again starting at 7 p.m. Pacific tomorrow night, Thursday, December 16th. Then I'll return to take you through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the past, present, and the future. We're going to look at the ghost of Christmas past, present, and futures. We're going to dive deep down the rabbit hole Friday, December 17th, taking a look at the past, the present, and the future of Christmas. Then Saturday night, Holiday Magic. Oh my goodness, an escapade is going to take place Saturday, December 18th, as I present to you a very special holiday broadcast that you will not want to miss. In fact, invite your friends, invite your family, invite your family's friends. Rumor has it there could be an appearance by Santa Claus Saturday night, December 18th. Starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as all shows do. Do you remember that last year Santa stopped by? We did an entire interview with Santa last year. But rumor has it, a little reindeer told me Santa's going to be here. You're just going to have to tune in and find out. Then we'll end out the weekend right together. Speaking of Santa, Sunday night, December 19th, we'll dive down the naughty list. That's right. Do you know somebody who's perhaps on Santa's naughty list? If you do, you can go visit rippandrabbithole.com, and at the bottom of every page is a little red button where you can send a shout out and record a 30-second message. You can tell me who's on the naughty list this year, and we'll be going through that as well as a whole host of Naughty List Adventures Sunday night, December 19th, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as all shows do. Can you believe it? My, oh my, how time does fly. Next weekend is Christmas. Christmas on Saturday, Christmas Eve on Friday. Oh my goodness. Before you know it, 2022 will be here, and we will be out with the old and in with the new. We'll return back to Jerry Hicks and the Darkwolf's Den Radio Show. It's the State of Mystery for Mississippi for Wednesday, December 15th. You're listening to the Rippin' Common Sense Radio
Check out
Network.
the new book,
The
Moon
Rippin' Rabbit
Madness,
Hole.
by first-time author J.W. Hicks. Originally conceived in 2015, this fictional novel only becomes more and more relevant by the day. What would you do if you found out that almost everything your government has told you was a lie? In the year 2103, Jeremy Carlson and his fiancée Brittany Parsons decide to take a vacation in a lunar cabin. Everything was going great until strange things started happening after they went to sleep. Are they being abducted, or are they catching moon madness, a strange phenomena thought to be caused by the lower gravity of the moon? After a fateful meeting with a guy named Zach Marshall, things become a whole lot more clear. They are now determined to expose the governing body of the Earth and Moon, known as the World Council. Will the three of them succeed, or will things go horribly wrong? Find out in the great novel, once again, by first-time author J.W. Hicks, called Moon Madness. Available now on Amazon, $12 for paperback, $7 for Kindle. Not adding this to your bookshelf would be madness.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Darkwolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Darkwolf's Den Radio Show for Wednesday, December the 15th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of a reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, so far we have covered, if you're just tuning in, a large plethora of paranormal, from Robert Johnston and the Devil at the Crossroads to Deer Island, and a lot more strangeness in the first half. But in the second half, as you guys know, we tend to cover the ghost stories of the state of Mississippi. Of course, being a Civil War home battleground, one would expect would have a lot of haunting going on, and that they do.
The Waverly Mansion. The Waverly Mansion, located about 10 miles east of West Point off Waverly Road in Clay County, is a former plantation turned museum that's set overlooking the Tom Baillies River and that preserves a small portion of original plantation grounds. Historically, planning for this plantation was started through the 1840s, and upon completion in 1852, it would be inhabited by Colonel George Hampton Young, his wife, and their 10 children. The estate would remain in the hands of the Young family until 1913, after which, following the death of the bloodline's last son, it was left abandoned. For half a century, the property would endure neglect, vandalism, and the effects of time, until in 1962 it was purchased by Robert and Donna Snow, who set to work meticulously restoring it before moving in with their children and opening the grounds up as a museum. Sadly, Donna would pass on in 1991, with Robert following later in 2017, after which their children would sell the old abode to Charlie and Dana Stevenson, who stand behind several plans to restore additional aspects of the property, while keeping it opened up for tours Tuesday through Saturday.
If this property isn't haunted with the plethora of passed away souls here, then I would be more amazed than it being haunted, right?
Over the years, a range of ghost stories have arisen from Waverly, with owners and visitors describing disembodied laughter and music from the empty parlor, encounters with a ghostly horse and rider in the yard, and the phantom silhouette of a Confederate soldier that's been known to manifest in mirrors, startling the living.
Now, I'm glad that this case file brought this up, because this is something that gets looked over a whole lot in these case files, is the mirrors being in a room. A lot of times there's been reports of mirrors being almost portals to paranormal activity in the area. That aside, this seems more like a mirror haunting or a stone tape haunting, in the fact that it just seems to be the repetition of a specific time frame or a specific action event or person over and over.
The mansion's most infamous and popular legend tells of a little girl who, sometime in the 19th century, died on sight of diphtheria. The imprint of her small form has been discovered time and time again in an upstairs bed, and her tiny entity has been sighted rounding corners or even heard from a distance calling out for her mother.
Ooh, I don't know about you, but that just gives me chills, right? Once again, you have a child energy, which is abundant energy. As we know, children hold an abundance of energy, right? And you have the trauma of dying from a disease, which at the time I'm sure was not a pleasant thing, as dying of a disease, as we know, is never a pleasant thing. But that said, this is a very, very creepy case file there, right? What else does Mississippi have to offer in way of ghosts?
Stuckey's Bridge. Stuckey's Bridge, spanning the Chunky River just outside of Meridian in Lauderdale County, is a dilapidated crossing and landmark site infamous for its purported range of extreme paranormal activity. Historically, this link was first constructed in 1847 as the main means by which to cross the Chunky River southwest of Meridian. In 1901, a new bridge was established by the Virginia Bridge and Iron Company to replace the earlier one. In 1984, Stuckey's was listed as a Mississippi landmark, and in 1988, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places. In 2016, the aged crossing would receive a fresh coat of paint, intended to cover previous defacement and vandalism. Today, while the bridge is no longer open to traffic, it remains a popular adventure destination, especially amongst local daredevils and teenagers, as either a party location or a place at which one can prove their bravery.
Now, that sounds like a bravery challenge that I'm up for. I'd love to go to a haunted place, right? What about you guys?
Alongside reports of extreme cold spots, as well as of the sensations of being touched, tapped, hit, scratched, or even incidents in which the unsuspecting have literally been pushed into the water by an invisible force.
I stand by my answer. I would definitely be willing to go to a place like this. How about you guys? After knowing that, the scratches, the punches, the being thrown in the water or pushed in the water by invisible forces, you guys still, if you said yes, would you still go hang out at a place like this? I mean, I would. I would love to hang out in some place crazy like that. That's a lot of evidence gathering for me.
The most popular legend surrounding this old expanse tells that long ago, one old man Stuckey ran a hotel near the crossing and would murder his guests in order to steal their valuables, after which he would bury their bodies along the riverbank. As this legend furthers, Old Man Stuckey was eventually caught and hanged from the bridge, leaving his soul at unrest. Some variants of this fable tell that Stuckey may have been part of the notorious Dalton gang, though this has never been formally verified. In the present, many have reported sighting Stuckey's ghost walking the banks of the river with a lantern in his hands, as well as of hearing splashing and screams from the water right under the bridge where his body was dropped.
I'm really not sure what to make of this one, whether it is a stone tape repetitive haunting or if it's an active haunting, right? You've got the lantern moving along the bridge and whatnot, and people sighting the ghost, but it doesn't seem to be interactive to that degree. So what do you guys think? How would you classify this? An active haunting or a stone tape? Go ahead, put a 1 if you think it's a stone tape where it's just repetitious activity over and over. 2 if you think it's an active haunting where it's actually interactive with people in real time. Or 3 if you're just not sure like me. I'm gonna be honest, I'm a 3 on this one. I'm very on the fence, but what do you guys think?
The Chapel of the Cross. The Chapel of the Cross, located off Mansdale Road in Madison, is an Episcopal church widely recognized for its Gothic Revival architecture, as well as, more recently, for its purported supernatural infestations. Historically, land the church now sits on, along with 524 additional acres, were purchased circa the 1820s by John and Margaret Johnston.
You know, we don't get a lot of haunted church case files, so you really have to appreciate when you run across one of those.
And in 1848, following John's passing, Margaret would set to work on the chapel. In 1852, the structure would be consecrated by William Mercer Green, first Episcopal Bishop of Mississippi, and following, construction of the rectory was started. The chapel would survive the Civil War, after which it would suffer years of neglect, before, in 1904, being officially declared extinct by the Diocese of Mississippi.
And again, like I mentioned before, being a Civil War battleground area, I'm surprised the whole every inch of the state isn't haunted, right? But let's see what you guys said about that last case file. 1, if you thought that was a stone tape haunting. 2, if you think it's an active haunting over on Stuckey's Bridge. Or 3, if you're unsure. Let's see what you guys had to say. Terry Taggart with the 3 over here says unsure altogether. We got JJ with the 3 unsure, also over in the DarkWolf's Den Show chat. Then we got My Life DIY coming in with the trip 2s. Definitely a stone or a active haunting. Sorry about that. Got my numbers confused there. Definitely an active haunting. Terry Taggart once again with a 3. Mandani Mall with a 2. Says nope, that is not a stone tape. That is an active haunting. JoJo's with the 3 says no, a combined actually. It's a active and a stone tape haunting mixed together. Now that is interesting, something that we may see again here in just a moment. Raider Champion with the 2.3 active haunting, but waning towards not quite sure. And you guys remember a couple moments ago we were talking about the Chapel of the Cross, and where we left off on that case file was the church being shut down and the archdiocese basically saying it's no longer an active building. Michael Fontaine also with the 2.
In 1911, the chapel was reactivated. In 1976 and 79, it would undergo extensive renovations and restorations. In 1985, it would be officiated as a parish. And in 1998, the education building was declared as a teaching facility for all ages. The site remains active to this day for worship services and related events.
However, there's also active haunting activity going on to this day, too.
According to local legend, haunted activity experienced within the Chapel of the Cross can be attributed to the restless spirit of a former caretaker, who, it's said, murdered his wife before taking his own life. And those frequenting the campus have reported phantom laughter and voices from empty spaces.
Now, let's break this down piece by piece on the haunting activity. The random voices and laughter from dark and empty spaces. That could be either a dimensional dimensional rift of some type, a portal, if you will, if you believe the idea of interdimensional haunting. Or there is the concept of the stone tape theory, once again, where it's just the repetition of things that have happened long ago, or the energy built up in that particular area.
Bloodstains that appear across floors despite repeat cleaning attempts.
I'm not entirely sure what to make of this, because I must assume that they clean it up afterwards, so it must appear to go away at least to some degree. So I'm not sure whether to make that call of an active or a stone tape, because it does keep showing up over and over, but the fact they're able to interact with it, I would probably classify that as more active, right? What about you guys?
And an organ that plays all by itself.
I don't know about you guys, but I would say that an organ interactively playing in the environment would definitely be considered an active haunting, right? That is pretty much textbook active haunting.
Another popular story associated with the parish details the tragedy of Helen Johnston and Henry Vick. As it's told, in 1859, Helen and Henry were engaged and set to be married, but just days before their wedding, Henry was killed in a duel, leaving Helen alone and heartbroken, and resulting in her attendance to his funeral in her should-be wedding dress. It's documented that Helen sobbed and pleaded over Henry's grave for hours, possibly even for days, and though she eventually remarried, it's assumed she never really got over her first love.
So already we have a high emotional, high trauma value in this situation, which, as I've said many times before, is the complete recipe for a haunting.
A pair of apparitions believed to be the couple has been sighted passing through the yard's locked gates, where they climb into a tree and sit for a time before fading away.
I would call that more of a stone tape. Again, there's not a lot of environmental interaction. It's more of a repetitive action over and over. So perhaps it is a stone tape, or maybe she gets to spend the rest of eternity with her love running around the tree, right? Who knows? Either way, interesting ending to a more interesting story. And we got time for maybe one more case file here, guys.
Glenwood Cemetery. Glenwood Cemetery, located off Lintonia Avenue in Yazoo City, is a historic graveyard recognized as the community's largest and also as its primary burial grounds.
Normally referred to as the Witch of Yazoo, this case file is not your normal haunting by any means. It's abnormal even by a paranormal standard, right?
Initially called Hannah's Bluff, the township that would grow into Yazoo City was first founded in 1824 and wouldn't take up its more modern moniker until 1841. Land Glenwood now sits on was originally owned by Captain John Willis and his wife Annie, but when brutal waves of yellow fever struck the city circa 1853, the couple would donate this plot to the local government, with a cemetery forming there in as early as 1856, though several markers are dated as even older. Through the Civil War, Yazoo City would play host to several battlefields, resulting, sadly, in the destruction of much of the original community, and following, a number of soldiers' remains were laid to rest locally. Today, Glenwood holds the remains of an estimated 10,000 to 11,000 bodies, with burials continuing into the present, and is open during posted daylight hours.
With that many soldiers and other bodies buried there, this is another area where I would be more surprised were there not haunting activities.
Alongside a slew of reports of encounters with ghostly soldiers, sightings of phantom lantern lights, and the like, the most famous tale surrounding Glenwood tells of a marker dubbed the Witch's Grave. As legend has it, through the early 19th century, a mysterious woman lived just off the Yazoo River and would lure fishermen back to her abode where she'd torture and kill them. It's told that in 1844, after a number of skeletons were discovered within this woman's shed, that she was promptly arrested and executed, but just before she was put to death, that she vowed to return 20 years later to burn the town to the ground. This woman's body was laid to rest in Glenwood, with an iron chain placed placed around her grave to prevent her rising from the dead.
Clearly, after 20 years in a grave, there's nothing that could be done to harm the town, right? She's dead and gone. And of course, the townsfolk would soon forget about the threat.
But 20 years later, in 1904, just as promised, a large fire would break out, leveling much of the city. Following the blaze, chains previously surrounding the witch's grave were discovered broken, and it's suspected her presence still roams the area, causing all manner of strange phenomena and scaring or even attacking visitors. Strangely, to date, replacement chains surrounding the grave always seem to break or fail, even with continued maintenance. And more recently, when a headstone was installed, shockingly, it spontaneously fell over, breaking into pieces. The legend of the Witch of Yazoo was popularized further in a William Morris publication titled Good Old Boy and the Witch of Yazoo. And today, Morris's remains lie just to the south of the purported witch's grave.
In some reports, it's said that there was heavy winds in the town that day that helped to fan the flames. The strange part is, if you go look at the National Weather Service data, you find that there was no wind in the town at the time, at least not to the degree in which it is ascribed to be. But the fact that the town did catch fire 20 years later, the fact that the chain continually gets broken regardless of the maintenance done on it. I mean, this is just a really, really strange case file, or somebody or generationally that has way too much time on their hands, right? Either way, ladies and gentlemen, all you can do is look at the evidence, apply a little common sense, and
you be the judge.
That's right, Bubby. We got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Darkwolf's Den Radio Show for Wednesday, December the 15th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of a reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad that you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the den may be closing for tonight, but don't you worry. The weekend fun has now been kicked off, and it has only just begun. That's right. We will be back tomorrow, Thursday, December the 16th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as we cover spooky Christmas stories. Part 2. That's right. Last year, we did the Spooky Christmas Stories episode, and it was such a hit, we figured we'd go on and make it a regular holiday tradition, and that's what we're going to do tomorrow, Thursday, December 16th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, revisiting a Victorian classic, right? At least a classic part of the holidays that we don't really celebrate anymore. And speaking of the holidays, our buddy AJ the Rippin' Rabbit will be back on Friday, December the 17th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, to discuss the Christmas of past, present, and future. Just like the Charles Dickens book, the ghosts still roam today's planet. The ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmases to come. What an exciting episode that sounds like it's going to be. And I will definitely be checking it out, and you should too, on Friday, December the 17th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, right here on the Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. Then on Saturday, December the 18th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, AJ is going to be doing the Holiday Magic Show. This is an episode unlike any other, and one you do not want to miss. I have it on special notice that we may actually get a visit from the big jolly elf himself, Mr. Santa Claus. That's just a rumor, but you're going to have to check out on Saturday, December 18th, 2021, AJ's Rippin' Rabbit Hole live show to find out if Santa makes an appearance, right? I know, I'm really excited for that one. We got an interview with him last year. Well, AJ got an interview with him last year. That was really cool. I am really excited to see how he's doing in this crazy year we are living in now. And speaking of crazy, make sure you come back on Sunday, December the 19th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, for one more episode of the Rippin' Rabbit Hole live show to round the weekend out right. He's going to be discussing the naughty list. Are you on the naughty list? Or do you know somebody who's on the naughty list? If you do, go on over to the rippinrabbithole.com. That is RIPON, At the bottom of every page on that site, you're going to find a big red record button where normally you would be able to send us a shout out, right? But we want you to send us a shout out and tell us who is on the naughty list. And AJ will be going through those on Sunday, December 19th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, on the Rippin' Rabbit Hole live show episode of the naughty list. That's right. And speaking of the rippinrabbithole.com, do make sure that you do hop on over there, sign up for your free, absolutely free, always will be backstage pass, and that's going to get you access to the rest of the site. Like the Down the Rabbit Hole section, our privatized social media section, where you're able to drop the information that you would normally be able to share on those fake platforms like, Twitter, Facebook, and all those other fake platforms that like to censor people with their own opinions, right? Come on over to the rippinrabbithole.com. We will gladly accept your information. We're always looking for new stuff, right? So come on and drop it down the rabbit hole and share it with the rest of the rabbits. Also, while you're over there, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you check out our 24/7 backstage lounge, my favorite place to go, where I'm going to go right after the show and hang out with the rest of the rabbits, and we hope to see you there. Also, if you missed any episodes we've done since we began broadcasting, come on over to the on-demand section under Listen Live, and you can check out every one of our past shows, because Lord knows we've got thousands of hours in there already. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, we have to get out of here for tonight. So on behalf of AJ the Rippin' Rabbit, Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, Walt House, everyone involved with Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, as well as our amazing mod team over there on YouTube. My name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and you've been listening to the DarkWolf's Den Radio Show exclusively on Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network, the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember, stay awake, but dare to dream. Good night, everybody. How yeah, that's right.
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. not a sinner? Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Check out the new book, Moon Madness, by first-time author J.W. Hicks. Originally conceived in 2015, this fictional novel only becomes more and more relevant by the day. What would you do if you found out that almost everything your government has told you was a lie? In the year 2103, Jeremy Carlson and his fiancée Brittany Parsons decide to take a vacation in a lunar cabin. Everything was going great until strange things started happening after they went to sleep. Are they being abducted, or are they catching moon madness, a strange phenomena thought to be caused by the lower gravity of the moon? After a fateful meeting with a guy named Zach Marshall, things become a whole lot more clear. They are now determined to expose the governing body of the Earth and Moon, known as the World Council. Will the three of them succeed, or will things go horribly wrong? Find out in the great novel, once again, by first-time author J.W. Hicks, called Moon Madness. Available now on Amazon, $12 for paperback, $7 for Kindle. Not adding this to your bookshelf would be madness. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you all again tomorrow night for some spooky Christmas stories. Bye, everybody.